my son's birthday, my sister showed up with her own cake and told everyone to celebrate her daughter instead. I said nothing, took my son and left. That night, Mom texted, "Don't be so petty." And I completely lost it. Can you imagine pouring your heart into making your child's birthday perfect, only for your own sister to waltz in, bringing her own cake and telling everyone to celebrate her daughter instead? What would you do when that betrayal shatters your son's joy right before your eyes? Because that's exactly what happened to me. And when my mom texted me later, "Don't be so petty," something inside me finally, violently broke. My name's Nate. I'm 32. And for most of my life, I've been the quiet, dependable younger brother. The one who paid the bills, who showed up, who stayed silent while everyone else made noise. It's funny, really. I run a small, but thriving graphic design business from home. I have a beautiful son who thinks I'm the coolest guy alive, and I've clawed my way through every kind of struggle to give him a calm life. But when it came to my family, especially my sister Jenna, I've always just folded, bit my tongue, smiled through the barbs, swallowed my pride. My ex-wife once told me I shrunk around them, and maybe she was right. See, Jenna is 3 years older than me, and at 35, she's still throwing tantrums. Just now with a husband, a kid, and a whole new arsenal of emotional blackmail. When I was 10, she threw a tantrum so loud the neighbors called the cops. The reason? I got a slightly bigger slice of cake at our cousin's birthday party. I'm not exaggerating. She screamed, cried, and slapped the plate out of my hands like we were in some daytime soap opera. I'll never forget the frosting landing on my shoes or how she screamed, "It's always about him," before storming out. That's Jenna. But there's something about becoming a parent that shifts things inside you. It doesn't happen all at once, but little by little, you stop tolerating things. Not for yourself, but for your kid. And watching your child get hurt the same way you once did, that flips a switch. Let me back up a bit. My son, Oliver, turned 8 last weekend. We were keeping it simple. Just a backyard barbecue, a Mario-themed cake, and a rented bounce house. Nothing too crazy, but he was thrilled. I had spent the week secretly building him a new bike, matte red, custom decals, the works. I was planning to surprise him with it at the end of the party. Just us. A quiet moment. Maybe some happy tears if I really nailed it. Jenna had RSVP'd 2 weeks before. "Of course we'll be there," she texted, followed by about 5 paragraphs on how busy she was, how hard it was being a working mom, and how lucky I was to just work from home. That's her favorite jab. She says it like I sit around in pajamas all day drawing cartoons. Meanwhile, she and her husband Rick had been bouncing between jobs and couches for the past 2 years. And for the past 8 months, I'd been covering their rent. Not fully. I told myself I was helping. Just a few hundred here and there when things were tight. But somehow that became regular. Jenna would send a message at the end of every month. "Hey Nate, can you just spot us again? We're short on groceries and Lily's growing out of her shoes." And I'd say yes. Not because I had extra money. I didn't. But because I couldn't stomach the idea of my niece struggling. I love Lily. She's 6 and sweet as can be. Even if Jenna has her dolled up like an influencer every time I see her. But lately, something had been off. Jenna's texts had started sounding less like requests and more like invoices. No thank you. No updates. Just amounts, deadlines, entitlement. And that brings us to the party. Everyone was in a good mood. The kids were bouncing and squealing. The burgers were sizzling. And Oliver was beaming in his little Luigi hat. My best friend Ray was manning the grill while I ran around handing out juice boxes and Band-Aids. It was chaos, but the good kind. Jenna showed up about an hour in, late as always, with Rick and Lily in tow. She made her usual scene, talking loud, hugging people like she was hosting, not attending. She wore this white sundress with oversized sunglasses and kept saying things like, "Ugh, I need a mimosa," even though it was a dry party. That's just Jenna, always playing the exhausted socialite. She barely acknowledged Oliver beyond a distracted, "Hey, birthday boy," before launching into some story about their neighbor's dog biting Rick. I remember thinking, just get through today. Just let it roll off. But it was the little things. She kept referring to Oliver's presents as kid stuff and scoffing when he got excited about Legos. When I brought out the cake, a big rectangle decorated like a Mario Kart track, Jenna made a face and said, "Oh, you didn't go with fondant?" Loudly, like it mattered. But I shrugged it off. I was too focused on Oliver's face, which was glowing. He was surrounded by friends, clutching a candle in one hand and squeezing my arm with the other. He looked up at me like I was a superhero, and I swear my heart nearly burst. Everyone gathered around to sing. I lit the candles. Oliver leaned in, ready. That's when Jenna stood up. "Wait, wait, wait," she said, waving her arms like a stage director. Everyone paused. I blinked. She turned to the crowd with this big, performative smile. "Well, everyone's here. Let's sing for Lily, too. Her birthday's in 2 weeks." I didn't move. She pulled out a cake. I'm not joking. From a cooler bag on the grass. She lifted out this pastel monstrosity with pink icing and edible glitter. It said, "Happy almost birthday, Lily," in swirling script. Like she'd ordered it days ago. Like this had been the plan. And my son, my sweet, goofy, gentle Oliver, was just standing there, still holding the candle, still smiling because he didn't get it yet. Until he did, because everyone turned. The attention shifted. And Jenna, without missing a beat, started singing. "Happy birthday to you." I felt like I was watching a play where the actors had all changed. Scripts mid-scene. A few people hesitated. Some joined in. I looked down at Oliver and saw the light in his face dim slowly, like a sunset in reverse. His hand dropped. The candle fell, and he stared at the floor. I didn't say a word. I blew out the candles myself. I picked up the gift bags from the table. I took Oliver's hand, told him we were going to do something way cooler, and walked out of our own backyard. No scene. No yelling. Just me, my son, and a decision. That night, my phone buzzed. A message from Mom. "You still paying for their rent this month?" I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back, "Rent? Oh, I thought we were singing for Lily now." I didn't get a reply, but by morning, the family group chat had exploded. You ever feel that kind of silence where your ears ring? That's what the group chat felt like the next morning. Not literal silence. People were talking, but the kind of noise that makes you feel like you're sinking in it. I woke up to 63 unread messages. Mom, Aunt Julie, even my cousin Derek, who usually only pops up to ask for fantasy football picks. Everyone had something to say, but not one of them asked how Oliver was doing. Not one of them asked why we left the party. Not one of them asked if I was okay. Instead, the messages were a flood of concern for Jenna. "That was so awkward, Nate. You really could have handled that better. Jenna said you embarrassed her in front of Lily. You walked out with the gift bags. That's so petty. What's wrong with celebrating both kids? It's just a cake. Just a cake." That line repeated over and over like a bad chorus. Like it was nothing. Like it wasn't the single moment that broke something in my son's chest. I kept scrolling, waiting for someone, anyone, to show a sliver of empathy. But the only message that even mentioned Oliver by name was from Jenna herself. Oliver didn't have to leave. I tried to include Lily because she looks up to him and wanted to feel special, too. Sorry if that face with rolling eyes is so awful. I didn't respond. I wanted to. My fingers hovered over the keyboard more than once. But I just couldn't. I kept thinking about how small Oliver looked. Sitting on the couch that night, still in his Luigi hat, his plate of untouched party food in his lap. He hadn't even asked about the bike. He didn't care. The magic had been sucked out of the day so fast he didn't know what to do with it. And I hadn't known what to say either. We watched cartoons in silence, and when he finally fell asleep, curled up next to me, I felt like I'd failed him. Not because I didn't throw a good party, but because I'd let her do that to him. Again, that's the thing about people like Jenna. They train you. Slowly, subtly over years. They make you feel like speaking up is overreacting, like being hurt is childish, like if you set a boundary, you're the one causing problems. And for most of my life I believed that. But Oliver's face at that party? That was a wake-up call. I couldn't snooze anymore. Still, I didn't respond. I stayed quiet for 3 days. And then Jenna showed up at my house. No warning. No text. She just showed up, knocking like the door was hers. I opened it a crack and saw her standing there in oversized sunglasses, her lips pursed, arms crossed over a crop top that said, Mom Life in sparkly lettering. I'm just here to drop off Lily's thank you cards, she said, like we were in a Hallmark movie. She wanted to thank everyone who came to her party. She held out a stack of glittery pink envelopes with stickers on them. One was addressed to Oliver. I didn't take them. I just stared. That wasn't her party, I said finally. Jenna rolled her eyes. Oh my God, Nate. Are we still doing this? You hijacked my son's birthday. You made him cry. You humiliated him in front of his friends. I was trying to make it special for both kids. I thought you of all people would get that. You're always going on about how we're supposed to be a village and help each other. And I did one thing, and you stormed off like a toddler. I opened the door wider so she could see my face. He didn't even eat his cake. He hasn't touched his presents. He thinks he did something wrong. That made her pause, just for a second, but then she sighed dramatically. Kids bounce back. You're being so extra about this. And there it was, the dismissal, the brush off, the same tone she used when we were kids, and she accidentally spilled nail polish on my comic books or told her cousins I wet the bed. I didn't. She was always the victim, always misunderstood. And if you challenged that, you were being dramatic. I didn't invite her in. I didn't say goodbye. I just shut the door. That night, Oliver finally asked, Why did Lily get a cake, too? His voice was so small I almost missed it. We were brushing our teeth side by side. I took a deep breath. Because some people think it's okay to share attention, even when it's not their turn. He nodded slowly. It was supposed to be my turn. It was your turn, Bud, I said, pulling him into a hug. And I'm sorry I let anyone take that from you. That was the moment something inside me solidified. I wasn't just done with the group chat. I was done playing the part they'd written for me years ago. The quiet helper, the ATM, the punching bag, and that decision, that's what kicked off the real storm. I canceled the automatic transfer I'd been making for Jenna and Rick's rent. Not maliciously, not with an announcement, just quietly. I deleted the scheduled payment. That was it. But when the first rolled around and their landlord sent a reminder, all hell broke loose. First came the text from Jenna. Hey, rent didn't go through. Did something glitch? Can you send ASAP? Then another 2 hours later. Nate, hello. We really need that money. You said you'd help. And when I still didn't reply, a full-blown phone call from Mom. You're really not helping this month? She said, her voice tight. They have Lily to think about. I have Oliver to think about, I said calmly. And I'm not responsible for their rent. You have been. Yeah, and I'm done. Mom sighed like I'd told her I was moving to Mars. You're being vindictive over a cake. It wasn't about the cake. It was about the years of disrespect. About watching my son get steamrolled like I did. She didn't mean to hurt him, but she did. And nobody has even apologized. There was silence on the line. Not the heavy, guilty kind. The kind that tells you the other person still doesn't get it. You know, she said finally, when your dad left, Jenna stepped up for this family. She was 16 and she screamed at me for crying too loud. She's struggling, Nate. So am I. Another pause. Well, I hope you're happy with your little protest. Then she hung up. I didn't feel happy. I felt nauseous, like I'd kicked a hornet's nest. But I also felt something else underneath the nerves. Something sharper, cleaner, relief. And then the messages started again. Rick chimed in first. He rarely spoke up in a group, but this time he posted a long rant about family loyalty and how some people only pretend to be generous until they're asked to prove it. Aunt Julie posted a crying emoji. Uncle Mark said he was disappointed. Cousin Derek chimed in to say, Nate's always been weird. And in the middle of it all, Jenna dropped the bomb. I just don't understand how someone who claims to love Lily could leave her in the street like this. Thanks for showing your true colors. That was when I broke my silence. I typed one message. My true colors? You paraded your daughter around like it was her party, while my son stood there heartbroken. And now you want my money like nothing happened. I'm done being your safety net. Get your life together. It got 10 angry reacts. And one thumbs up from my cousin Alex, who lives in Oregon and barely speaks to anyone. But it was enough. I muted the group chat. And then came the betrayal. 3 days later, I picked up Oliver from school, and he was quiet. Quieter than usual. I asked what was wrong, and he said Lily told everyone I ruined her party. I nearly slammed the brakes. Apparently, Jenna had told Lily that Oliver left because he was jealous, and that he made a scene and made everyone uncomfortable. Lily, in turn, repeated this at school. And kids being kids, they believed it, or at least teased him like they did. One girl told him he was too sensitive. Another asked if he cried every time someone else got a cake. He didn't cry in the car. He just stared out the window and asked if we could get burgers instead of going home. I said yes, and as I watched him eat his fries in silence, a part of me hardened. Not cold, not bitter, but done. If Jenna wanted to twist the narrative, fine. If the family wanted to pretend I was the villain, fine. But I was going to protect my son, and if that meant burning bridges, so be it. I had a plan, a quiet one they wouldn't see coming. But first, I needed to pay someone a visit. Rock bottom doesn't always look like some dramatic breakdown in a movie. Sometimes it looks like eating cold fries at 7 p.m. in a parked car outside a Burger King while your son pretends he's not holding back tears, and you pretend you're not watching him do it. That was my low point. Not because I'd lost money or status or anything you can quantify, but because I realized how much of myself I'd given away to keep the peace in a family that never offered any in return. I'd spent decades shrinking, folding, smoothing things over like it was my job. And now my son, my brilliant, sensitive, forgiving little boy, was learning to do the same thing. And I could see it on his face. That fear of making things worse by speaking up. That instinct to be small when someone else takes up all the space. It wrecked me. That night, after I tucked Oliver into bed, I sat on the living room floor surrounded by unopened birthday presents. He'd refused to touch them all week, like they were somehow contaminated by what happened. But I opened one, just one. A science kit from his friend, Milo. I stared at the box, blinking through the guilt, and finally whispered, "I'm so sorry, buddy." Then I got up. And I started writing a plan. It started with a list. Nothing fancy, just a cheap notebook and a blue pen. But it helped to see the words. I wrote, protect Oliver. Stop funding Jenna. Create space for Mom. Rebuild, quietly. Give Oliver his joy back. That last one hit me the hardest. See, I had this version of myself in my head. The dad who handled things, who didn't let the world touch his kid. But the truth? I'd let the world touch him anyway. I'd stood there, while someone he trusted snatched the joy right out of his hands. And I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't called her out. I hadn't defended him. I'd walked away. Which, sure, maybe that was the right call in the moment. But in the bigger picture, it wasn't enough. So I got to work. The first step was school. I emailed Oliver's teacher, Mrs. Grant, a kind, no-nonsense woman in her early 40s who'd always had a soft spot for him. I didn't go into all the drama, just explained the situation in gentle terms, mentioned the teasing, and asked if she could keep an eye out. She replied within the hour, "Thank you for telling me. Oliver is a bright and empathetic kid. I'll make sure he feels supported." It wasn't a fix, but it helped. And the next day, when I picked him up, he seemed lighter. Said he got to help lead the class science experiment. Said Mrs. Grant let him use the big thermometer. He even laughed once. Just a small, surprised sound when I tried to do the Waluigi voice and completely butchered it. I almost cried in the parking lot. That weekend, I decided it was time to give him his bike. I didn't make a big show of it. No party hats or cameras. I just wheeled it out of the garage Saturday morning while he was eating cereal in his pajamas. His eyes got huge. "Is that for me?" I nodded. "It was supposed to be your birthday surprise, but I think we both deserve a do-over." He ran to it like it was a puppy, spun the wheels, tapped the bell, stared at the custom name decal on the frame like it was a magic spell. "Nate's Bike Shop strikes again," he whispered. That's what he called my hobby. Nate's Bike Shop. I used to fix up old bikes on weekends and sell them online for extra cash. Oliver loved to help, which mostly meant handing me the wrong tools and asking if bikes could fly. We rode to the park that day, just us. No distractions. No noise. He wore his Luigi hat and a big grin. And for the first time in a week, he looked like a kid again. That ride, those 2 miles around the lake, became a ritual. Every morning before school, we'd do 1 lap. Sometimes in rain jackets. Sometimes with travel mugs full of hot chocolate. Sometimes singing Mario theme songs off-key. And slowly I saw him open back up. He asked questions again. He cracked jokes. He made up a fake language and dared me to translate it. And me? I started breathing again. But life wasn't all smooth rides and warm beverages. The fallout from the family drama kept creeping in. Jenna tried to call 3 times. I ignored her. Then came the voicemail. You seriously just going to ghost your own sister? After everything? Rent's overdue, and Rick's car needs a new transmission. Lily needs school supplies. You promised us. You're such a hypocrite. I didn't reply. I forwarded the voicemail to my own email, then deleted it from my phone, just in case I ever needed receipts. Mom tried a softer approach. She sent a card. A card. Inside it was a handwritten note. Family isn't perfect. We fight. We hurt each other. But we forgive. That's what we do. Come over for dinner Sunday. Let's move forward. No mention of Oliver. No apology. Just move on. I didn't go. Instead, I made spaghetti with Oliver and let him pick the movie. We watched The Iron Giant and both cried at the end. I didn't try to hide it. The truth is, even though I'd cut Jenna off financially, I hadn't really disconnected yet. There was still this string between us. Guilt, obligation, history. Every time I ignored a message, I felt a pull. But every day I stayed silent, the string frayed a little more. And then something shifted. One afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring out, but a minute later I got a text. Hi, this is Linda from Millard Properties. Jenna listed you as an emergency contact and financial guarantee for her lease. They're 2 months behind. We need to confirm whether you intend to continue covering the payments. Guarantor. I sat down, cold all over. I never signed anything. I'd sent them money directly, but I'd never signed as a guarantor. Right, I asked for the lease. They emailed it, and there it was. My name, my email, my old signature scanned in from a PDF I'd once sent Jenna years ago when she said they needed proof of income to qualify. I had forwarded a tax return and a blank signature page from a generic work form. Never a lease. But someone had copied and pasted. I stared at the document, my hands shaking. It wasn't just betrayal. It was fraud. Jenna had forged my signature to get the lease. I spent the next 3 hours calling lawyers, reading forums, trying to figure out my rights. Turns out proving signature fraud isn't easy, especially when it's a scanned image and there's no direct admission. But there was enough smoke that I could threaten fire. I sent Jenna one message. I know about the lease. You have 48 hours to remove my name or I go to the landlord and the police. She read it instantly. No reply. 24 hours passed. Nothing. Then a second message from me. 24 left. That got her attention. Please don't do this, she texted. I didn't have a choice. Rick said we'd get denied otherwise. You helped before, so I thought it wouldn't matter. You lied. I was protecting my family. You risked mine. Still, she didn't remove my name. So I contacted the property manager and sent over a formal complaint, explained everything, attached my ID. My lawyer drafted a short statement claiming I never signed that lease. Millard Properties escalated it. The lease was terminated. Jenna and Rick were given 30 days to vacate or reapply with a new cosigner. Cue the nuclear meltdown. Jenna called me 6 times that night, left 3 voicemails, each one angrier than the last. She accused me of ruining Lily's life, of making them homeless, of choosing revenge over forgiveness. I blocked her. Then Mom called. Nate, what have you done? What I should have done years ago. She's your sister. And I'm Oliver's dad. That was the last time we spoke, at least for now. The next few weeks were quiet. We stayed busy. Bike rides, school projects, weekend pancake experiments. I poured my energy into work and landed a new client that doubled my income for the month. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had space. Like I was building something that wouldn't collapse under someone else's weight. And Oliver, He started inviting friends over again. He wore his Luigi hat to bed one night and said, "I think I'm back to normal." I smiled, but deep down I knew we weren't just back. We were building something new, something stronger, and it wasn't over, because 1 week later I got a letter in the mail, handwritten, from Jenna. I opened it slowly, expecting bile, but what I read, well, let's just say it changed everything again. The envelope was bubblegum pink with little gold hearts on the corners. The kind of stationery you'd expect from a pen pal, not a sister who'd forged your name, humiliated your son, and gaslit half the family into turning on you. It sat on the kitchen counter for a full day before I opened it. I'd passed it 3, maybe 4 times, each time thinking, just throw it out. I didn't owe Jenna closure. I didn't owe her another word. But curiosity is a tricky thing. Even when you're sure you've turned the page, it tugs at your sleeve like a kid asking for just one more bedtime story. So that night, after Oliver fell asleep on the couch watching Back to the Future, I poured a cup of tea, sat by the window, and opened the letter. It was 3 pages long, written in Jenna's loopy cursive, lavender-scented ink. Dramatic from the first line. "Dear Nate, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, and honestly, I don't blame you." That was the only honest line in the entire letter. She went on to say how hard things had been, how Rick had lost his job again, how Lily was deeply affected by everything that happened, how Mom had cried for 3 straight nights and couldn't believe her only son would turn his back on his blood. Every line was soaked in guilt, veiled blame, and self-pity. And then came the kicker. I made a mistake with the lease. I admit that. But I only did it because I knew you'd say yes anyway. You always say yes. You're the responsible one, the stable one, the one who fixes things. I guess I just assumed that wouldn't change. It wasn't an apology. It was a confession of expectation. She'd counted on my silence, my predictability, my unwillingness to be the bad guy. She was saying, "You trained me to use you." And maybe she wasn't wrong. But that version of me, the one who swallowed his pride for peace, who stayed quiet for the sake of family, that version had already buried himself the day I watched my son stare at the floor with a candle in his hand. The letter ended with a request. "We're staying with Rick's cousin for now. It's cramped. No privacy. Lily's sharing a futon. If you could help us just this one last time, just until we get on our feet, I swear I'll never ask again. Please, Nate, for Lily. J." I folded the letter and slipped it back into the envelope without a word. Not angry, not hurt, just focused. Because this time I wasn't going to react. I was going to plan. It started with a simple idea. Stop playing defense. For months, maybe years, I'd been putting out fires Jenna started, always scrambling after the damage, always a step behind. But I had leverage now. I had proof of the forged lease, screenshots of texts, voicemails, the letter. And more importantly, I had something Jenna had never bothered to cultivate, relationships. I started making calls. First was Alex, my cousin in Oregon, the lone thumbs up in that group chat meltdown. He worked in finance and wasn't close to most of the family anymore, but we'd always gotten along. When I told him the full story, there was a pause. Then he said, "Dude, that's insane, but also not surprising." Apparently, Jenna had a pattern. When she was in her early 20s, she borrowed $3,000 from their side of the family for medical bills. Never paid it back. A few years later, she'd guilt Alex's sister into co-signing a car loan, which Jenna then defaulted on. He even sent me the paperwork to prove it. That was 2 allies. I wasn't looking for revenge out of spite. I was looking for accountability. And if Jenna wanted to play the victim in the family group chat, then I was going to make sure the truth had a louder voice. Next, I reached out to our old neighbor, Mrs. Wilkins. She lived next door to us growing up, and when Dad left, she used to babysit us. She remembered the early days when Jenna used to bully me into giving up the last cookie or steal my allowance and say I'd lost it. She even had a journal entry from back then she'd scanned years ago when I asked her to write a letter of recommendation for a scholarship. In it, she described Jenna as controlling, dramatic, and manipulative, especially toward Nate. I added it to the folder. Then came the hardest part. I emailed Lily's school, not to get her in trouble, but to make sure she was okay. I didn't trust Jenna to keep her safe or stable anymore. I wasn't aiming to take custody or interfere. I just wanted to know if there were any red flags. The school counselor replied the next day. She couldn't give me much due to privacy laws, but she did say Lily had missed several days recently, and they were concerned about instability at home. That word stuck with me. Instability. Jenna was always the one accusing everyone else of being unstable, of losing it, of causing scenes. But now the cracks were showing on her side. And while I wasn't gloating, I wasn't ignoring it either. Because I was building something. Slowly, quietly, intentionally. Not to destroy Jenna, but to protect Oliver. And maybe, just maybe, to give Lily a chance at something better, too. By the end of the week, I had a binder. Literally, one of those black 3-ring binders with color-coded tabs. Section 1, Financial Records. Payments made, bank transfers, texts requesting money. Section 2, Lease documentation. The forged signature. My original PDFs. Email threads with the landlord. Section 3, Character references. Alex, Mrs. Wilkins. Old messages from Jenna over the years. Section 4, Emotional harm. Screen grabs from the party. Oliver's school emails. Journal entries I'd started writing the night after the party. I didn't know yet what I'd do with it, but I knew I'd need it. The next step, detach completely. I left the family group chat, deleted it from my phone. No announcement, no explanation. And then I set up a new one, called it Oliver's World. Just me, Ray, Oliver's teacher, and my cousin Alex. A space where people actually showed up for my kid. We shared photos, jokes, book suggestions. I posted Oliver's science fair flyer. Ray offered to help him build a volcano model. Alex sent a Mario-themed planner from Amazon. Every ping from that chat felt like a high five to my soul. And then, out of nowhere, Jenna messaged me again. Not through text, through email. The subject line was one word: apology. The message: Hey, I've been thinking a lot about everything. I know you're mad. I know I crossed a line. But I miss my brother. And Lily misses her uncle. If there is any chance we could talk, I'd like to meet for coffee. No drama, just us. I sat with it for a long time, because part of me wanted to say no, and part of me wondered if this was real. But the smallest part, the part I'd buried under disappointment, wanted to believe she meant it. So I replied, Sunday 2 p.m. That cafe by the lake. I'm bringing a copy of the lease and the letter. We're going to talk about everything. If you walk out, I'm going public. Her response was immediate. Okay. I told no one. Didn't want advice. Didn't want backup. This was my war to end. And I knew Jenna well enough to know she wouldn't come unarmed. So I brought the binder. And I brought a plan. Not a threat. Not a tantrum. Just truth. The kind that cuts deeper than screaming. The kind that stays. When Sunday came, I got there early. Sat by the window. Ordered tea. And when Jenna walked in, late as always, I could tell something was different. Not in her face, in her eyes. Because for the first time since we were kids, she looked afraid. And I was ready. She walked in wearing a blazer. That's how I knew it wasn't real. Jenna didn't do blazers. She did hoodies with ironic slogans, cardigans she borrowed from Mom, and once an actual prom dress to a baby shower. But not blazers. The blazer meant she was playing a part. It meant she wanted to look composed, responsible, grown-up. I saw right through it. She spotted me at the corner table and gave a tight, rehearsed smile. I didn't stand up. She sat down across from me, crossing her legs like we were two executives about to negotiate a merger. I had the binder on the table, closed. Calm. Thanks for meeting me, she said. I didn't respond. She sighed. Look, I know I messed up. I've had time to reflect. And I realize I handled Oliver's party badly and the lease thing and everything. Still silent, she fidgeted, pulled at her sleeve, tried again. I'm sorry, Nate. This time, I tilted my head just a little. For which part? She blinked. What? Which part specifically are you sorry for? Jenna hesitated. The party. The lease. I already said. Are you sorry for making Oliver feel invisible? For lying to me about the lease? For forging my signature and committing fraud? For turning the family against me? Or for getting caught? Her lips tightened. You don't have to be like this. I'm just asking for clarity. I came here for honesty. That's all. For a second, I thought she might actually try, that she might put the performance aside. But Jenna didn't know how to be vulnerable without a spotlight. She leaned back, arms folded. Fine. I'm sorry. Happy now. I opened the binder. Jenna's eyes dropped to it like it was a weapon. And in a way it was. This is every rent payment I made for you, I said, flipping to tab 1. Over $7,400 in total, not including groceries, birthday gifts, or the down payment I gave you when you said Rick's car got stolen, which I now realize never happened. She opened her mouth. I held up a hand. Next, I said, flipping to tab 2, is the lease agreement, the one with my forged signature. Here's my actual signature for comparison. Here's the email I sent you with the blank form. Here's the version with your edits. The landlord has confirmed you submitted it. My lawyer has reviewed it. I have enough to press charges if I choose to. Jenna's face drained of color. You wouldn't. I haven't yet. I flipped to tab 3. Here are testimonies from Alex, Mrs. Wilkins, and a few others. They outline your history of manipulative behavior, financial exploitation, and pattern of emotional abuse, specifically toward me. These aren't accusations. These are patterns. You went to Mrs. Wilkins, she whispered. You left me no choice. I flipped to tab 4. Here's a letter from Oliver's teacher about his behavior after the party, and an email from Lily's school counselor flagging your recent instability. I haven't contacted CPS, but if Lily's situation doesn't improve, I will. That finally broke her composure. You're trying to destroy me. No, I'm trying to protect my son, and if possible, though I doubt you'll let me, your daughter. Jenna slumped back in her chair. What do you want, Nate? And there it was, the only question that mattered. I took out a piece of paper, slid it across the table. It was a formal, notarized agreement drafted by my attorney. Nothing complicated, just 3 key points. Cease all financial requests from this point forward. Formally remove my name from any current or future leases, loans, or documentation. No contact with Oliver unless pre-approved by me. It wasn't revenge. It was a boundary, a legal one. Jenna stared at it like it was a death certificate. This is insane, she muttered. No, this is freedom. She didn't sign it. Not then. She shoved her chair back, mumbled something about needing time, and left the cafe in a huff, the blazer trailing behind her like a white flag she couldn't quite bring herself to wave. I sat there still, the binder in front of me, and then I pulled out my phone and made one final call. The next week I called Mom. I hadn't spoken to her since our last tense conversation, but she deserved to know. She answered on the second ring. Nate. Hey, I just wanted you to hear it from me. Okay, I met with Jenna. I presented her with a formal agreement. I've decided I'm no longer engaging in any family financial assistance. That includes her, Rick, or anyone else. Silence. Then, Nate, I know she's a lot, but she's still, Mom. No, don't. Please just listen. She went quiet. I spent years cleaning up her messes, paying for her decisions, being the bad guy when I said no, and then being the villain when I finally stood up for my kid. I can't do it anymore. I won't. I'm not asking you to pick sides. I'm just letting you know that from this point forward, I'm done being the one everyone leans on. I'm building something better for me and for Oliver. And if that makes me selfish, fine. Mom exhaled. She's not doing well, Nate. She's saying you threatened her. She forged a lease with my name. I could have had her arrested. Another pause, longer this time. Then what can I do? That surprised me. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe just listen without trying to fix it, without defending her. Just hear me. Mom sniffled. I'm sorry. I didn't know about the lease. I know. We hung up on neutral ground. Not healed, but maybe starting to understand. A month passed then, too, and slowly the ripple effect settled. Jenna didn't sign the agreement. She did, however, move back in with Rick's parents across town. I heard through Alex that she'd gotten a part-time job at a daycare. She still posted passive-aggressive quotes on Instagram. Family isn't always blood. Some people only love you when you're useful. That kind of thing. But there were no new rent requests, No voicemails, no forged documents. Lily started showing up at Oliver's school again. I didn't stop her from saying hi at pickup. She ran up once and hugged him. He smiled. I let it happen because none of this was her fault. She's just a kid like Oliver, trying to grow up in the middle of other people's storms. As for us, we kept building. We took a weekend trip to a cabin by the lake, built snowmen, made s'mores. Oliver beat me at chess for the first time and demanded I call him Grandmaster for the rest of the weekend. He started therapy too, not because he was broken, but because I wanted him to know that healing doesn't mean hiding. He made a comic book about a superhero named Dad Man. Powers included building bikes, making pancakes, and turning invisible when people fight. I cried when I read it. I framed it for his room. And then one night, 6 months after the party, I got a knock at the door. It was Jenna. No blazer this time. No makeup. No agenda. Just her, holding a manila envelope. I signed it, she said. The agreement. I had it notarized. I took it, checked the stamp. It was real. I'm not asking for anything, she said. Just wanted you to know I got the message loud and clear. I nodded. She turned to leave, but before she did, she paused. Tell Oliver I'm sorry. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I mean it. I didn't respond. She left without waiting for one. That was the last time I saw her. No dramatic endings. No tearful reunions. Just boundaries. Finally respected. And silence. The good kind. The kind that feels like peace. Not absence, but space. Space to grow. Space to breathe. Space to ride bikes with your son around a quiet lake. And know deep in your bones that you're no longer shrinking to keep others comfortable. You're finally standing tall. I gave Oliver a new bell for his bike last week. He rang it 3 times, then grinned up at me and said, "Race you to the end, Dad Man." So I smiled back and set her on. Have you ever had to fight for your peace, even if it meant sacrificing family ties? Or have you learned the hard way that sometimes the quietest people have the biggest breaking points? Let me know your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear what you think.